So of course it's Erev Chav Cheshvan, and that's why we're gathered here together. Farbrengen a little bit Pekesha the Chav Cheshvan. Chav Cheshvan is of course the Yimaledes of the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab begins Teim Chitmimim, Miyasada Teim Chitmimim, and in the few minutes that I just got on, I already heard it was mentioned that when he started Teim Chitmimim, he gave the Sicha of Kol HaYetzil Melchemes Beis David, and he said that the Tmimim are Chayoli Beis David. He calls the Tmimim the soldiers of Beis David to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu. Today, Mitzad the Matziv Ba'elam, everything is Bashkach Pratis, obviously. So the concept of soldiers is very much front and center on all of our minds. As we know that who knows how many tens of thousands of Achinu, B'nai Yisrael, brothers and sisters who are soldiers and are Poshet being Meser Nefesh, and the Eibusher should guard them and protect them every minute. And of course, that's in the center of our minds. And I think for more or less, it's in the center of everybody's minds, our children also, how much they see, how much they hear. Bevinishvi, you can't not know the Matzav Hadvorim and the Tehillim Vesmazak Zicher and the Meistes and Bayon Zala, the Pe'elim V'yenkim Yisadet To'ez. So it's interesting that the Rebbe Rashab chose to call us soldiers. You know, of course, there's a lot of yeshivas, and every yeshiva is made up of Talmidim, and there's a lot of names that you could call us, but he wanted us to be Chayolim Beis David, soldiers. There is a lot of lessons from a soldier, as the Rebbe Tarum Giret, and that's really each and every one of us, and each and every one of us are Talmidim, are part of this Tmimim, part of these soldiers. It was in the Tafshin Lamed Daled, 50 years ago. Many people are making many references to 50 years ago after the Yom Kippur War. So then in Parshas Neach, the Rebbe spoke a few inyonim, herois, that we could all learn Navidas Hashem from soldiers. And what does it mean to be a soldier? And the first inyan the Rebbe said was, Bepashtus, the inyan of Nasa v'Nishma. That by a soldier, there's no questions. He has a mefaked, he has a commander, he has a general. And that's what first and foremost the Rebbe said. The first thing the Rebbe said about a soldier is Nasa v'Nishma. I think for some reason there's a certain children, especially maybe, are soldiers like a choshev a thing. It's a fancy thing. He goes with a gun. He goes dressed. It's special in the eyes of children. A soldier, and perhaps we could use this soldier, the musig of a soldier, to explain in Yonim Yiseidim like the Rebbe explained then. And first and foremost, this thing of Nasa v'Nishma. I heard a very beautiful Maisa, and I heard this over here. We live in Chicago. Next door to us is Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's Da'id, his name is Michal Twersky from Milwaukee, or Histashtikal Rebbe to a lot of people. Michal Twersky, if you heard of him. So Ed Desel, and I actually checked with him last week. I saw him personally last week, and I checked with him the story that I heard Mishmoi, and he confirmed it. He said he heard it from his brother, Reb Shia. And he says that in Eretz Yisrael, when the Rebbe began, after the war, the Rebbe began the Tefillin campaign. So they have, of course, the Duchen Tefillin by the Kesel Amaravi. And they were standing there, the Chevra, and one day a person walks down to the Kesel, and, Israeli guy, he's not no Yamak, so they approached him, Adoni, Tefillin, and he starts screaming at them like an Israeli could, who do you think you are? Why are you asking me? You're harassing me. I'll shut you down. Okay, good, nish, shalom, v'zel. Later, a month, two later, again the guy comes down, and again they approach him, and Ed on Shirayin that it's a harassment, and he's going to report them to the government, and he knows what he's doing. They said, "We're sorry," and does it. So by them in their duchan, they put him on the do not ask list. Don't bother this guy when he comes. Don't bother him. You never know what's his assignment. And I think I believe it happened the one time that the guy came, and the guy standing, the Chassid, the Lubavitcher standing by the duchan tefillin, was not a regular. He didn't know the rules. So he went over to him. I already warned you, and I warned you twice. And he gives him a whole tirade. So the Chassid, the guy that the Messiah stand tells him, looks at him and says, Adoni, ani makir otcha. I recognize you. He says, Ma? He says, Ata yita mefaked batzava. Lo? He says, you're a general, a commander in the army. He says, Ken? So he says, Vani ayiti ba'pluga shelcha. I was in one of your soldiers under you. And I want to tell you a story. He says, it was one of the wars of Eretz Yisrael. I don't remember which one. And we were going in war. It was very, very difficult. And you gave a command that we should take a mountain. But says there was a mountain, and the enemy, the Syrians, whoever was standing on the top with big guns, and they were shooting. And you gave the command we should charge the mountain and take them out. And my friend, the soldier with me, turned to me and said, the Mefaked is crazy. We're all going to get killed. We're charging up a mountain and they're shooting at us. So I told my friend that you're right. Itaka makes no sense, but that's not our place. It's not our decision. He's the Mefaked. It's an army. It's a war. We have to do what we have to do. And that's what we did. We stormed the mountain, and a number of people were killed. But we stormed the mountain because that's what you said. I'm a faked, you don't ask questions. So this Lubavitcher younger man or Bocher turns to the Mefaked and says, and here by the case of Amarovi, the Mefaked is Ribono Shel Olam. And he says we should put on tefillin. And it's not our place to ask questions or to understand. It's quiet. Adoni atorah tefillin. He pulled up his sleeve. He says, Nitzachta oti. Nitzachta oti. This is a Maisa, this Michal Tursky that sailed. And again, I confirmed it with him last week. This Maisa, he said he heard it from his brother, who heard it by the Kesel after the... B'cholei Fendasa de Rebbe Giret, that one of the first heroes of being a Chayol, we're saying that the Rebbe Rashab is based on being Chayoli, based David, is Nasev and Ishma, as mefolkt. And was meheist, amal we understand more, amal we understand less, amal we're in the mood more, amal we're in the mood less, but we have to be a soldier. That was one of the nekudas. Another nekuda that Rebbe speaks there is that a soldier is known as Mesiras Nefesh, that he does whatever has to be done, and it could be all different types of things, and he doesn't ask questions, even their terrible things, even not Mesiras Nefesh. And this, of course, we saw that this Chayoli Beis David that the Rebbe Rashab had eingestellt was like a nevuah of what happened. Because in the first day of Tmimim, they were Meser Nefesh to learn and daven, Barichis and Chassidus and Nigla. And then right away, you had the Friedrich Rebbe's there, and there was communism, and there was Mesiras Nefesh Peil. Then came the Rebbe's there, and there was Shlichus, and whatever had to be done in the whole world. And we're constantly being called to do different things. But the Rebbe Rashab Hashem Egerstell, this is what it is, soldiers. Soldiers going to battle. You might be called to do this, you might be called to do that. And that is who we are. We're soldiers. And even though maybe... Again, there's people sitting on this group, Mechanchim and Arvaxina mentioned, Jungelite, and then there's Bochrim, and then there's children. But the Nekuda is Elber. The Nekuda is that we have to know that before Tim Chitmimim, there's already a lot of yeshivas, and also today there's a lot of yeshivas and fine people. But Tim Chitmimim hot gemont, unmont, this in of Chayole Beis David, to be soldiers in the army of the Rabbeim, an army of the Rebbe, and to be and do what we have to do, even if sometimes it requires very, very difficult things, like a soldier mamash on the front lines. We have to feel that same urgency, that same ibigigem, like a soldier going to bed. I want to say one more thing, talk about soldiers. That is that sometimes we feel, soldiers, but that was a long time ago, and that was the Rebbe Rashab and big Chassidim and great Chassidim. Even in our day, it's a Chassidim Musad Rebbe, but today we feel weak and we feel small. And how could we be the ones who are going to bring Mashiach? How could we be the Chayole Beis David? A child, where's our keach? Where's our strength? We feel einsgematter. It's a long golus, a nochaklap. So I want to share with you something that I once heard by Farbrengen. It was back in Eretz Yisrael. I don't remember if Rabbi Kaplan mentioned we went on Shlichus Eretz Yisrael together. Tafshin Gimel, Dalet. And we went then amol to Farbrengen by a Chassid, Mashpia. He already passed away. His name is Reb Zalman Notik. Reb Zalman Notik from Yerushalayim, was a Mashpia in Yerushalayim in the yeshiva. And we went to his house in Farbrengen with him. I don't remember if Reb Levke, you were there then? Maybe this was the next year. I stayed a little bit longer. Whatever it was. We went to his house and it was a very difficult time in Lubavitch. It was Gimel Tammuz, and everyone was Farchmuret. It wasn't Gishmak. It wasn't a happy time. You can imagine. Many of you on here probably remember the time. Anyways, he told us the following mushal. And to me, at that time, it made a very big impression. And every time I remind myself of it, it makes me a big impression again. And the mushal he said was that there is soldiers in the army. That he used their Yisraelite army. He said the soldiers train, and they train very difficult, and they do have to hard mesimot, and they have to run, and they have to swim, and they have to jump, and they have to fast, and all the things in order to show that a person is strong enough to be any soldier. Lachas kama v'kama, to be a higher madrega soldier, and a higher madrega soldier as they do the different difficult activities, some soldiers fall out, so they're regular soldiers. But to be the highest madrega, whatever they're called in Israel, the tzanchanim or whatever it is, in America it's called the Navy SEALs. So they go through the most grueling and the most difficult tests that Pasha tax the human person's endurance and ability to live. And as it goes, and then the group gets smaller and smaller, and he was matayir this kemetav yicholte. As the group gets smaller and you're left with Pasha, the strongest people in the country. But here it's the last day of the testing. And these people, the final 100 people who are they're emaciated and they're exhausted and they haven't slept and they haven't eaten and this, and mishlept sich mit the letzte kechts. And they're going and they're told you have to go another few miles and up through a water and up that hill. And on the top of that hill, those who make it over there, they're the strongest, highest, most elite soldiers in the whole army. They're running she'eris kechesam, they're weak, they're eskim muchet. Sitting on the top of that mountain as a family, and the family's having a picnic, and they're sitting, and they're watching, and they see a group of men are schlepping up the mountain that they can barely move. They can barely move, they can barely walk, they can barely breathe, and they mishlepp sich, wie alte, zerbrochene Menschen. And they make it to the top of the mountain, and they fall down in exhaustion. And the kids are laughing. Such weak people. They can't go up a mountain, we mentioned. These must be the weakest people in town. When be'emes, these are the strongest people in the whole country. He said, it was a mashal, obviously. He said the mashal is that sometimes weakness is the sign of the greatest strength in the world. Why are we weak? We're weak because we're at the end of a 2,000-year Golus. We're weak because now we're 30 years after Gimel Tammuz. We're weak because there's so much Golus, so much this, but we're holding strong. We're the ones who are going to bring it to the finish line. We're the ones who are going to make it over the mountain. We're the strongest soldiers in the whole world because our weakness is a expression of our endurance. Because we've endured, because we've been through everything, so we're so weakened. But that weakness is actually the greatest strength that we have. We're the chayolim, we're the soldiers who are taking what all the soldiers did till now and bringing it to the finish line and bringing it over the finish line. And Mamela, this is Taki the Rebbe Rashab said over 100 years ago, over 120 years ago. And this is the Chayoli Beis David, Navegestalt, a Kvutza from Chayolim, a Kvutza Ken Yibur that's getting bigger and bigger, but a Kvutza that has a very, very clear mission. Chayoli Beis David, Asher Chayfu Kres Meshichecha. And we have to be those Chayolim, and we not have to, we are those Chayolim. We are because we're here, and I feel nicht gefragt by uns. We are the Chayoli Beis David, and maybe we have to have that type of Ibrigi Gebenkeit like Chayolim, and like the Rebbe said, Nasa V'nishma V'chayel, Mesiras Nefesh V'chayel. And to also recognize another point, one last point that Rabbi spoke in that Farbrengen, that a chayil, his avodah is negeh to everyone. One soldier can't say it's just me. Every soldier is negeh together to finish the war together. And that's our schus, and that's our achrayis. And especially today when tens of thousands of our brothers and sisters are on the front lines doing that, the gashmias, then we, the Chayoli Beis David, have to strengthen ourselves to do it beruchnias and fulfill that mission. And that shlichus and follow our mefakid and follow the Rebbe and do exactly what he wants from us and carry it to the finish line and bring Mashiach Tzidkenu bepeil mamish and bekorav mamish and Farbrengen with the Rabbi and Farbrengen with us bepeil mamish bekorav mamish.